White and enriched breads like Wonder Bread in the US or Hovis Soft White in the UK are cultural mainstays, soft, affordable, and endlessly versatile. They've been marketed for decades as a symbol of modern convenience, family meals, and even childhood nostalgia. Fortified with vitamins and minerals and labeled as enriched, these breads seem harmless, if not beneficial. But behind their pillowy texture and familiar packaging lies a deeply ultra-processed product engineered for shelf life and palatability, not human health. Far from being a benign staple, regular consumption of commercial white bread contributes to metabolic dysfunction, gut imbalances, obesity, and chronic disease, often without obvious warning signs. At the heart of the problem is refined white flour, which has been stripped of its bran and germ, the parts of the grain that contain fiber, healthy fats, vitamins, and minerals. What remains is mainly starch, which is quickly broken down into glucose upon digestion, leading to rapid blood sugar spikes. These surges in glucose prompt insulin release, and over time, repeated cycles of high glycemic load from refined carbohydrates like white bread can lead to insulin resistance, the precursor to type 2 diabetes, fatty liver, and abdominal weight gain. White bread's glycemic index is often as high or higher than table sugar, meaning it causes a similarly intense glucose response. This not only stresses the body's metabolic system but can also trigger energy crashes, irritability, and increased hunger shortly after eating, driving overeating and snacking. In children, these swings can manifest as behavioral issues, difficulty concentrating, and sugar cravings. For adults, they fuel a feedback loop of carbohydrate dependence, making healthy dietary changes harder to implement over time. Despite being marketed as enriched, commercial breads like Wonder and Hovis often include only a fraction of the nutrients found in whole grains. While some B vitamins and iron are added back after milling, many phytonutrients, fiber, and magnesium, crucial for cardiovascular and metabolic health, are lost in the refining process. This enrichment is a nutritional band-aid on a fundamentally degraded food product and does not reverse the harmful impact of consuming refined starches with little fiber to slow absorption or support gut function. The lack of dietary fiber is especially concerning. A slice of white bread typically contains less than 1 gram of fiber, whereas whole grain alternatives offer 3 to 5 times that amount. Fiber not only supports healthy digestion and gut microbiota, but also moderates blood sugar levels, promotes satiety, and helps reduce cholesterol. Low-fiber diets have been strongly associated with an increased risk of colorectal cancer, diverticulitis, and inflammatory bowel disease. When people consume white bread regularly, they often displace higher fiber, more nutrient-dense carbohydrates, contributing to a deficient and inflammatory diet. Commercial breads also typically contain added sugars, not for taste but to speed fermentation and enhance color. Wonder Bread, for example, contains around 2 to 3 grams of sugar per slice, which adds up quickly in sandwiches, toast, or bread-heavy meals. This hidden sugar contributes to chronic inflammation, worsens glycemic control, and promotes tooth decay, particularly in children. It also reinforces a preference for sweetness in everyday foods, deepening the societal trend toward hyperpalatable, ultra-processed diets. To preserve softness and extend shelf life, these breads are laced with emulsifiers, dough conditioners, and preservatives, such as calcium propionate, monoglycerides, and azotocarbonamide, a chemical also used in yoga mats, banned in the EU but permitted in the US. While deemed safe in small quantities by regulatory bodies, these additives raise concerns. Studies have shown that some emulsifiers disrupt gut barrier function, leading to low-grade inflammation and potentially contributing to autoimmune conditions and metabolic syndrome. Calcium propionate has been linked to behavioral changes in children in some small-scale studies, such as restlessness and poor attention. Furthermore, many commercial breads undergo high-speed, industrial baking processes that reduce fermentation time to just a few hours. Traditional sourdough or slow-rise breads undergo natural fermentation, which breaks down gluten and phytic acid, making nutrients more bioavailable and easier to digest. In contrast, fast factory-made loaves result in bread that is less digestible, higher in anti-nutrients, and more likely to contribute to gluten sensitivity, bloating, and gastrointestinal discomfort, especially in people with IBS or mild gluten intolerance. The visual and tactile appeal of white bread, the fluffy texture and uniform slice, comes at a cost. Achieved through a combination of chemical leaveners, stabilizers, and ultra-refined flour, these characteristics are signs of industrial food engineering, not traditional baking. What seems like a humble loaf is actually the product of a highly mechanized, nutritionally hollow process, optimized for profit and shelf life rather than human nourishment. Long-term consumption of commercial white and enriched bread has been epidemiologically linked to increased risk of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and all-cause mortality. It is particularly dangerous when eaten daily in the absence of whole grains, fresh produce, and quality fats. And because white bread is often a cornerstone of children's diets, used for sandwiches, toast, and snacks, it plays a silent but powerful role in shaping dietary habits that endure into adulthood. In conclusion, while commercial white and enriched bread may seem like a dietary neutral, bland, familiar, and harmless, it is, in fact, a driver of many modern health issues. Its high glycemic index, lack of fiber, chemical additives, and hidden sugars make it a silent threat that can derail even a moderately healthy diet. Replacing it with minimally processed, whole grain, sourdough, or sprouted bread, or better yet, reducing reliance on bread altogether, can lead to marked improvements in blood sugar control, digestive health, and long-term wellness. Bread should nourish, not just fill. And for most commercial loaves on today's shelves, that promise has long since been baked out.